So there are some instructions and some things we need to follow, some guidelines and things that we need to take notice of first. For one, you can't run those leveling jacks with the key on. And secondly, before you run those leveling jacks, if you are going to be setting up and camping for a while, you want to make sure your slide outs are out first before we set those jacks. Thirdly, probably most importantly, you will want to make sure that your front tires are straight before you ever turn on that jack panel and run those on. So in order of sequence of how to operate that system and use that leveling system, we're going to turn the power on to the leveling jacks. You're going to activate the auto level process, which we already have pre-programmed. We have set that up to be setting your coach level when you use that. So what happens when you hit the auto level button? The process starts with first turning on the pump. It will start extending the jacks, and there's a small delay, and it will dump the air out of the airbags. Once the airbags are deflated, the jacks will be on the ground, and it will start the leveling process. A couple key things here. A lot of times people, customers, they're wanting to get in a hurry and set up their coach, so they hit auto level and think they can walk away. That is not the case. You need to hit auto level and be as still as possible in that coach for the duration of this leveling process. I guarantee you it's going to take less than 2 minutes to get that leveling process done. So hit the auto level button, allow that process to take its course. Once that control panel beeps at you and it shuts down, that's signifying that the coach is level or has achieved that set point that we have preset.
So what if the coach doesn't seem to level? Can owners correct that on their own? Up
This is user friendly. You can make some adjustments just by manually going to the touchpad and adjusting those manually, up and down to get your coach where you need it to be. The other thing is, over time we've noticed that some of the settings that we have in there will kind of back away a little bit, and we call this resetting the null. So you want to set 0 point level of that coach. So there's a process, and we're going to take you through that process. So this is the procedure to reset the null of the leveling system. This is basically just teaching it 0 point level of where we want the coach to level each time. With your jacks down and you've made your manual adjustments, either raising or lowering, we can do each individual side. Once we get it level to where you want it to be, it's very simple. We're going to turn the leveling system off, and then we're going to hold auto level and power at the same time. The series of beeps, we want to hear at least 6. It'll beep until you let go. Once you let go, you have reset that exact position that your coach is at as the 0 point level, or that's the null of the coach.
So owners visit places with different campsite surfaces. Are there surfaces that jacks should not be lowered onto?
Absolutely. First off, I would say quicksand, obviously. No, in all reality, there are some surfaces that we really don't want to plant those jacks on. Anytime you get into a wet situation where you've got some really soft ground, grass, we may look at that at a state fair or campground of that nature, maybe a concert somewhere or a racetrack where you're parking in some grass. Make sure it's a solid surface, grass, it's dry, there's not any moisture in that, because that can tend to sink those jacks into the ground. The other thing we found is on sand. So I know a lot of you customers are wanting to go to the beach. There's not a problem with going to the beach, but just be cautious when you put those jacks down. Anytime you might put those down in sand, they do have a tendency to sink down in the ground. Now, the thing that's going to happen is when you try to raise those jacks back up, well, the jack will probably come up, but that pad will probably stick in the ground. So we want to avoid those kind of areas. We would recommend your best surfaces to put those on, obviously, are concrete and pavement. There's nothing wrong with putting things underneath the jacks to make it a little more stable ground. As long as you have a platform that is bigger than the footprint of the jack itself, you would be safe in using that underneath the jack leg.
Is there an emergency process if an owner's system doesn't work and they have to operate their jacks?
There is, and we would like to show you that process and where those components are. First, we need to remove the access panel. Just kind of set that off to the side here, let it hang. That gives you access to your leveling system. The next is using an 1/8 inch Allen wrench to open or close the valves. Simply stick the wrench in the back of the valve, turn each one of these 2.5 turns clockwise so that it opens those valves to retract. After we have those opened up where we can retract the system, we're going to need to use a 7/16 socket, and you can just put it right on your drill. And on the end of the motor is this small little label. This small red label right here comes off, and inside that is a 7/16 nut that we will turn counterclockwise to lift those jacks off the ground. After that procedure is done, you are going to go right back to your solenoids here with your Allen wrench, and you're going to turn those back counterclockwise 2.5 turns.